The Advertising Standard Council of India has now announced that it will tie up with Central Consumer Protection Authority to strengthen regulation around misleading ads. The CCPA has requested Advertising Standards Council to provide advertisements and forward them that are non-compliant with the ASCI code and could potentially violate the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Now, Department of Consumer Affairs Secretary has said that CCPA and ASCI will work to ensure that any infringement are addressed effectively, and in case of repeat offenders, the CCPA guidelines are not adhered to voluntarily, then the CCPA will have power to impose fines as well as penalties, and in fact, the body will not shy away from enforcing provisions of the Act, essentially hinting that possible repeat offenders will have to be wary. It is a problem that India has been dealing with, not just by the name of one big example being Patanjali, which also got reprimanded from the court for constantly violating the consumer protection guidelines and for misleading ads. Other possible repeat offenders have also been warned that strict actions will be taken, Krishna. And this is an important problem because consumers day after day constantly fall prey to some of these misleading ads, end up buying things, objects, services that they do not really want, or that do not really deliver on what is being promised, essentially harming them in the long run.
Right, and clearly the problem is not just one brand or two brands, it's an overall problem of misrepresentation in advertisements. That's how you have an organization called ASCI, which is Advertising Standards and Council of India. Now, the fact that it is tied up with CCPA means that it is a concerted effort. It is an integrated effort to ensure that you are not just going to be talking about the standards for advertising, the code for advertising, the morals of advertising, but we're also taking action.
Enforcement.
And yeah, exactly. It's not enough if you have stringent rules; they need to be enforced, and they need to be enforced at a stage where you have as a consumer, you feel you have the right to question that if you have been misled, then you can take it to an organization, and that organization will take it to the Advertising Council of India. So in that sense, this should come. Ideally, I'm hoping that this comes a full circle. The way this is done right now, it comes a full circle. A consumer who's the receiving end of a misleading advertisement should be able to take it up with the authorities and consequently get the ad cancelled out, and consequently, make sure there's action taken against the company, brand, which is advertising, which has allowed the advertisement to go on air. And the fact that this has happened clearly means that there are more than one brand.
Absolutely.
There are far more brands out there putting out misleading advertisements. We're already living in the day and age of social media, Shweta, where we are being misled by so many things on our social media feeds. And I think it is about time that we at least make sure that these ads where you have a company sitting down with an advertising agency deciding what should the ad be, and then putting out a strategy and making sure.
And
these
self-regulation is not enough. I think that's also the message that is coming in. Advertising Standard Council of India, which is a self-regulatory body, has now announced that it will tie up with the Central Consumer Protection Authority, essentially hinting at the fact that self-regulation merely is just not enough, and Central Consumer Protection Authority will have to evoke the power given to them by the Consumer Protection Act in case of repeat offenders who do not comply with ASCI orders. They will have to face the brunt and fine possibly, and also the law in case they continue to be repeat offenders and continue to put out advertisements which are misleading in nature. Self-regulation perhaps no more when it comes to misleading consumers by way of advertisements.